All right, let's talk about what's happening in the Middle East now with Einat Wilf, a former Knesset MP and now senior fellow with the Jewish People Policy Institute. Thank you so much for coming on RT International today. Prime Minister Netanyahu vowing to respond to today's synagogue attack with a, quote, firm hand. What does that mean?
It means that we will have to make it clear that the Jewish people have every right to sovereignty in their own homeland. We find ourselves for decades now under attack by the Arab world, the Arab Palestinians, who continuously deny the right of the Jewish people to sovereignty in their homeland, deny the historic, deep connection between the Jewish people and Jerusalem, between the Jewish people and the Temple Mount. And what we are seeing now is yet again an effort to drive away the Jewish people from their own places.
I would imagine there would be many on the Palestinian side who are saying that they're the ones who are being oppressed, who are also not being granted the right to sovereignty. I do apologise, but if you say that Israel has a right to defend itself, revenge killings, violence, clashes, it's never stopping. It's always going back and forth. Blame from one side to blame on the other side. When will it come to an end?
There is no back and forth, there is no cycle, and there is no equivalence. Fundamentally, this conflict is about the continued denial of the Jewish people their rights to sovereignty in their homeland. The Jewish people do not deny the Arab people their rights to sovereignty, but we expect that to have peace, our right will be accepted, not as foreigners, but as people who are home, as people who have a deep, long, century-long connection to the land of Israel.
A century-long connection in that part of the world might seem like a little dip, a blink of an eye in the grand scheme of history. And I'm so sorry for jumping in
millennia.
A century or a millennia. Let's jump into what happened just a week ago. I do apologise, we've got a bit of a delay with the satellite here. I'm going to play a very, very small video, a video I'm sure you're familiar with. Over a week ago, Israeli police fatally shot a Palestinian man who attacked their car with a knife. Here's the video we're showing right now. The policeman came out, shot the Palestinian fatally. I just want to ask you, because it is a controversial occurrence here, was this a case of a justification in shooting to kill of the Palestinian man who attacked a car with a knife? Hey Nat, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I cannot see anything, so you will have to ask me a question.
All right, well, the question was last week, a Palestinian man made the grave error of attacking an Israeli police car with a knife. Israeli police got out of the car and fatally shot him. It is now under investigation by Israeli officials. Do you think lethal force was justified in that?
It is under investigation, and we will see what the outcome is, but your description of making an error, it is not an error. This is intended. This is an attack against the symbols of Israel. This is a form of civil war. And again, fundamentally, what we are seeing here is you can ask Arabs, Palestinians, do they recognize that as much as they have a right to sovereignty in their land, the Jewish people have a right to sovereignty in their land? I doubt that you will find anyone who says yes. And you will find among Jewish Israelis many who say yes. And this is the core of the conflict.
You're absolutely right. And I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. When it comes to the allowance of sovereignty, Ms. Wilf, I agree with you. I don't debate you here. However, what we are seeing, whether it's binding or non-binding, are European nations such as Sweden, the UK, Ireland and Spain are poised to recognise a sovereign Palestinian state. What kind of message does such a widespread European move, what kind of message does that send to Tel Aviv? You're telling me that no one will recognise a Palestinian state? There is a tsunami of recognition going across Europe as we speak.
by the way, is Jerusalem, not Tel Aviv. But the message that comes from the world is, I believe people are well-intentioned and they want peace, and so do I. And they believe that peace will be achieved by means of two states, and so do I. The expression of two states, the Jewish people will have Israel, the Arab Palestinians will have Palestine. But what many well-meaning states, by recognizing Palestine, do not understand they're doing, that they continue to feed the Palestinian Arab hope that one day the Jewish people will give up and disappear. Because they recognize a state, but they are not, for example, they're not telling the Palestinians that the 2 million people living in that state can no longer be termed refugees from Palestine and claim that Israel is Palestine too.
Ms. Wilf, if we see a growing number of European countries recognizing a sovereign Palestinian state, will there ever come a time that Israel will recognize a sovereign Palestinian state and stop doing roaming power cuts, stopping ambulances from going in there, erecting a further barrier wall? How are you supposed to create peace when all you do is foster what some call severe angst that turns into maybe perhaps some sort of war, hostilities, terror?
You're completely reversing cause and effect. Israel has repeatedly been willing to recognize and support a Palestinian state if that will bring peace, an end to claim, an end to conflict, and full and final. The price of their state is the final acceptance of the Jewish state. This is a price that the Palestinians refuse to pay. They do not accept that the Jewish people have any right to the land, even to part of it. They deny the entire connection. This is the call that you're reversing cause and effect. There will be peace tomorrow if the Palestinians will simply say, both the Jewish people and the Palestinian Arabs have a right to this land. This is why there should be two states, a Jewish state Israel and an Arab state Palestine. There is the world need to understand. They cannot feed the Palestinian hope that they will have a state in Palestine, in the West Bank and Gaza, plus a Palestine that supersedes Israel. And right now, this still is what they want. This is what they are aiming at, and they have not given up on that hope, and this is what they are fighting for.
All right, a former member of the Israeli parliament, Einat Wilf, a great pleasure to have you with us here on RT International today. Thanks so much.